Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Resident Evil 7 playthrough. We have just stuck a chainsaw through Jack Baker's stupid bulbous head, and we're ready to insert the last of the Cerberus metals into the back door and escape. You might notice that the last of the items required to leave the house was hidden behind a boss fight, much like the last of the emblems in the Spencer Mansion was. So, yeah, they're really leaning hard on that classic formula. But there are only 3 items to escape. There should be 4. Why are there not 4? Even the one campaign in Resident Evil 2 that only had 3 items broke one of the items into 2, so it was actually 4. Damn it, Capcom, you've ruined everything.
Well, the Cerberus only has 3 heads.
They could have broken one of the heads into 2. Come on. Anyway, yeah, the back door leads us to this backyard. Everything about the Baker estate is like tons more visually relatable than is the stuff in the Spencer estate, because the Spencer estate was obviously this big ass mansion built by a multi-million-dollar corporation. So it didn't really feel like a place where people were meant to live so much as a cover for the lab underneath it. The Baker estate is not actually a cover for anything. This was a normal-ass house, with some odd architectural choices, yeah. It was a normal-ass house, though, with a normal-ass family that just happened to get caught by a biohazard outbreak. So the lab
With that said, I do think that the mansion design of the original mansion does call back to, a lot of the traditional scary stories with, like, the haunted mansion and stuff like that. So it was going for something that's classic and relatable for the genre, but maybe not for its audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like the spooky mansion is something that everybody has heard
Well,
of.
the spooky old house in the hills, that's the Baker family house does have that going for it as well. The thing is, it's smaller. It's not as massive, and it's obviously designed architecturally more to be a relatable human household than it is to be
a mansion.
Than it is to be an interesting game space, which was the thing the Spencer estate had going for it, is that the structure made for some very interesting navigation. Whereas in the Spencer Mansion, everything loops back in on itself in a very convenient way, so that getting from one end of the house to the other is not particularly challenging under any circumstances. Probably making up for this was why they included Jack Baker as such a major part of exploring the house, because instead of necessarily needing to navigate a complex environment, you needed to navigate around this persistent threat. So knowing the house made for interesting navigational challenges in a different way than the Spencer Mansion did, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah. I'm not, neither way is necessarily inherently superior, but they are notably different experiences. This is the broken handgun. That gets you, I think, the M19 handgun, which I'm not sure what actual real-life model that's supposed to correspond to. But the M19 handgun has lower ammo capacity and better firepower than the Glock 17. So, that's a thing.
Just keep it as this, and here's where our upgrade stuff comes from.
The antique coins we've been collecting throughout the game go into these into these cages, and there are 3 cages. If you've been collecting all of the antique coins by now, and I'm not using the dirty coin during this playthrough, I'm only using the ones you find around the house and the other locations. But
you can get the first 2 right now.
You can get the first 2 right now, and then all the other antique coins in the game are just you saving up for the Magnum, which unfortunately is not really worth it, at least not in normal mode, because you don't get very much ammunition at all for the Magnum in this game. It's really disappointing.
So there's only 3 cages to unlock with the coins in the entire game.
Yeah, one is a steroid for health increase. The other is a stabilizer, which increases your reload speed.
Good old drugs.
This faster reload speed is something that can be injected into
There are
your body.
several of both throughout the game, so you can get, well, not necessarily pretty powerful, but you can give yourself an edge. And once you've injected multiple reload speeds, your reload speed gets pretty quick. You can see I'm doing a pretty good job of reloading my gun right now.
Check this out. I'm going to inject him with gun efficiency.
It's still weird to me that you that you can just straight up use steroids in this game. It's like,
yeah,
okay.
it's kind of an irony because we've moved away from the roided up Chris Redfield to Everyman Ethan, and now we're actually using steroids. I'm okay. The Resident Evil 2 remake implemented health increase upgrades as well, but instead of actually using steroids like this game does, it's given the yellow herb roll from Resident Evil 4 to the blue herbs from classic Resident Evil, so you can combine them with red herb. You combine the blue herb with the red herb, you get a health increase, I think is how it's explained in a file early on. I might be misremembering how that works. In any case, the cages themselves count down with every coin that you insert into them. Oh, maybe it's Zoe's. Okay. Put that back, Ethan. That's creepy. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the herbs. They rolled together the health increase mechanic into the herbs the way Resident Evil 4 did, but they didn't include the yellow herbs. They just gave it to a specific mixture using the blue herbs. So, no. I think that works well.
So what is it you need me to do? Is it going to help me get out of here?
But there's no poison status in this game, right?
Not in this game, no. There might be in Resident Evil 2 Remake, but I don't know.
Was there poison in the original RE2?
Yeah, but it was kind of a nothing problem.
Yeah, it really was. It was downsized compared to
I just
RE1.
finished yesterday playing through the B scenario after a straight run through Claire A, Leon B, and I got poisoned like maybe one time throughout the entire thing, and I think that was in extreme battle mode. I don't even think it was in the main campaign. It's like, there's one enemy that can't even poison you unless you do a specific thing in the A scenario and make them worse in the B scenario. Like, if you turn on the anti-BOW gas in the A scenario, it will make the plant monsters mutate into a more dangerous form in the B scenario, even if it makes them easier to kill in the A scenario. There's a file that explains why, but it's like one of the only enemies that can actually actively poison you, and it's something that you can avoid just by not doing that in the A scenario and saving it for the B scenario instead. So, yeah. Resident Evil 2 was cool in a lot of ways, but, you know, some of the things that should have been a threat just weren't anymore. Oh, Jack, I found your mower.
You're going out of your way to show every mower, aren't you?
No, actually, I didn't know that was there. I was looking for this. You need to find a toy axe in Lucas Baker's room and use it to create a 7 shadow to complete that numerical code, and it unlocks the...
Why can't you just use your arms?
That's a very good question. But you can't. In any case, if it unlocks that chest, and I think it's one of the health or stabilizer items that's in there. So I wanted to show that off, just in case you all are playing along with me and maybe, you know, get ahead of us in your own playthrough as we upload. Anyway, now that I've got the gun repair kit, instead of repairing the handgun like the developers want me to do, I'm just going to go back and unlock that room that I need the other key for, which has some files and stuff in it too, so it's worth doing. I do like the files in the Resident Evil series that, you know, you piece together parts of the story based on what you read. I think it works well. And there are also these lock picks, which for some reason work more like the small keys. I mean, I guess it makes more sense for a lock pick to break when you're picking locks than a key that just...
But you think he'd get better at it eventually, you know.
You've never played Elder Scrolls, have you, Ted?
No, I haven't.
You break so many lockpicks. So many lockpicks.
It's okay. I'm gonna mod in more durable lockpicks.
It's especially true in Oblivion, where you have to like individually knock up the tumblers. And the trick to the lockpicking minigame in Oblivion is to hit the action button when the lock is like touching the top. But as you knock it up, it'll alternate between staying up for.
We found the warden's teeth.
Between staying up for like a second and falling immediately so that you don't have time to press the button, so the lockpick will just snap. And it's like, ugh. And sometimes I've had cases where I snapped like 3 lockpicks in under 2 seconds, and... Damn it!
And you can't, like, level it up so that you're
You level up your lockpicking skill to make it easier, but at the beginning of the game, you're just blowing through lockpicks because the only way to increase your lockpicking skill is to continue picking locks. In fact, I think you get more lockpicking skill increases by failing at lockpicking, because that prolongs the lockpicking minigame.
I guess it's like real life, where you learn through failure instead of through success, maybe, kind of.
Well, you learn different things through failure and success. So
now, from this note and putting it together from what we know of the Zoe Baker situation, we find out that like in the early stages of infection, the Baker family actually went back and forth between being normal and being possessed by the mold demons. So, yeah, it was a rough time for them.
Are you supposed to feel bad for the family at all? Or
Yes,
at least
yes.
some
You
member
are,
of them?
because they're victims. Their monstrous forms aren't, their true selves.
they're doing.
There are shades of their personality in what they're doing, but it's not like the Spencer Mansion where the zombies were all scientists who worked on the virus. In that case, you could call it a weird sort of justice because they were the makers of their own demise. The Baker family were legitimately trying to be nice. They rescued this little girl from a shipwreck, and it turned out that she was, a bioorganic.
The Biohazard.
A bioorganic weapon created for war zones to mind control people.
As you know.
Because, Resident Evil. But,
I mean, only slightly less ridiculous than trying to train raptors to do so.
Tekken was a strange franchise, but,
So you're saying Resident Evil 8 is going to have a boxing kangaroo enemy?
hey, it's
Would that
possible.
make it more or less ridiculous than the average Resident Evil game, though, is the question.
Less ridiculous.
Okay.
But, Resident Evil 7 has a markedly different tone from the rest of the series, as you've probably noticed by now, and part of that is that the writing consultant is a Western writer, one of the ones responsible for Fear, in fact, which is probably why both games have the creepy child going on. But yeah, we've got a Western writer keeping the tone in line with what you would expect of Western horror, but we've also got that sense of conquering the adversity and emerging into an optimistic ending that Resident Evil is known for. And I think the balance works better here, honestly, than most of the rest of the series, where the gung-ho tends to take over a little bit as you go on. Oh. Yeah, there's bees, and you can't really effectively...
Not the bees!
You can't really effectively... Oh, damn it. I forgot they
You can't just shoot them out of the air like you could in other games,
You can shoot the larger bugs, but the swarms of bees, obviously not feasible. You need to get the flamethrower before you can effectively take out the bees.
Oh, I see they too are a fan of Spaceballs. Probably got it for Lucas's birthday back then.
Anyway, you could see the message on the wall was left by Zoe, apparently. Zoe sneaks around, and one of the environmental storytelling elements, you never see Zoe smoking at all, but you can infer that she's a chain smoker, because wherever you find a safe room that she likes to hide out in, there's invariably an ashtray full of cigarettes. So in her trailer is the first time you encounter that, and there's another one in the room over here, I think. Anyway, yeah, there are flamethrower parts, and you need to find them and reassemble them together in order to make a flamethrower.
And here's where we get our first storage upgrade.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the backpack. It's not a fanny pack, it's an actual backpack. It should be able to hold more than two extra items, shouldn't it?
Those are
Boop.
very big bullets.
Just, picturing Ethan running around fighting zombies and monsters with a backpack, though, considering mold is basically fungus, kind of makes me think Ethan's like a beardless Joel. That's probably what he'd look like if this were in third person, a beardless Joel. Joel had a backpack running around, too.
We only see Ethan's face like what? I think one time.
You don't
Not-
see
not-
Ethan's
not
face
even-
at
not
all.
even his full
you
face.
You see like the bottom. You see his jaw, but the rest is covered up by the fungus. And even the PSN avatar of Ethan is just a picture of his hand with a health meter on it.
So he's like Ness's
So he's
dad,
just a-
basically, where he
They
just did
stuck
both.
to their guns about making him a faceless protagonist. I mean, he's not silent. He's got snark, but he's faceless. You can sort of see that he's a generic looking American white dude from his hand in the shape of his shadow. He's even got a basic-ass, boring, generic white dude haircut.
And we couldn't have a Resident Evil game without something breaking through the window.
Now, the bugs here are annoying because they flit around, but eventually they will stop before they actually try to attack you. That's your moment to swipe at them with your knife. Wait for them to stop, go in, and swing. Or stab, whatever floats your boat. I do like that they included two attack buttons for the melee weapons, even though you don't use the melee weapons all that often. It's nice to have two methods to attack with. Just, you know, a little variety in your approach. The stab seems to have a bit more range because you step into it.
I feel the knife was tailor-made for these particular type of enemies at all, because there's just no other weapon that works better against them. I mean, if you want to be overly dramatic,
you can shoot them, but you're going to waste bullets.
You can shoot them.
You're going to waste bullets shooting them down, and you're going to waste bullets missing them because they're flitting around so much. There are a lot of storage tins in this goddamn house. What are you doing with so many storage tins? Why do you need so many?
Storing things.
Come on.
Storing the random dirty coins you're just hanging around in there. Gosh.
These insects are highly combustible.
Anyway, yeah. Here's the second part of the flamethrower.
In an herb.
How on earth this got assembled out of random ass parts, I don't know. Or why were the random ass parts scattered around? I don't know. It's not really a proper flamethrower. It's a burner. It's more like an appliance made of ramshackle parts. But it works as a flamethrower, and that's what's important. And it makes more sense than pouring alcohol on your bullets to make fire bullets.
Everybody loves Alone in the Dark 2008. Seriously, though, that game could have ended up being really cool, from what I've seen. Like, there's a lot of neat things about it, like how you open up your inventory. Like, I know that a lot of games do this now, but you opened up your inventory in real time, and it was the spots of your jacket. And the music is actually legitimately really good and stuff like that, but it just ended up being bad.
Yeah,
It
needed
bad.
a lot more time in the oven. But, you know, there is a PS3 version called Alone in the Dark Inferno that improves on a lot of stuff.
It's dead, Lewis.
Yeah.
It's not dead. See?
Well, you didn't burn it enough.
The thing
then.
is, the hive will explode multiple times. The reason I switched to my handgun and started firing normal bullets at it is because I actually wanted to conserve some burner fuel, because this stuff is damn useful.
Oh, I thought you really had something against bees.
Oh, we need a crank. This is a Resident Evil game.
The thing is, the burner's useful against boss Marguerites when you get to her, and I also want to, you know, burn the other hives around the house. So
So if you burn the hives, they're gone forever, right?
Yes.
Okay. And if you don't, more bees will just pop out, I'm guessing.
Also, there are doors and cabinets in this house that have like swarms of bugs on them, and the only really effective way to get to, well, you can walk up to them and swipe them with a knife and get the bugs off that way, but they're also going to hop off onto you and damage you. Oh jeez, I've taken way too many bug bites. Look at my hand. That's gross.
Raid!
One of the things I'm looking forward to in Resident Evil 2 Remake is because of the third-person perspective, they can show injuries on parts of you other than your goddamn left hand. Like, one of the things I noticed while I was playing the demo is that if you get bit on the neck, you got a bloody mark on your neck that stays on your character through the cutscenes.
Does it go away when you eat a tasty herb?
I don't know. I never actually used any healing items in the demo. You gotta understand that even with 3 attempts at the demo on 3 separate PSN accounts, it's a short demo and you've got a half-hour time limit, so you're kind of in a rush the whole time.
That's fair. So this is just a Resident Evil question. But did they ever... Do any of the main characters ever get infected throughout the course of the game?
Yeah, in Resident Evil 3, there's a midpoint event shakeup where Nemesis catches Joe with his infection tentacle, and you fight the boss in virus status. And then afterward, you pass out, and you have to play as Carlos Oliveira for a while, going to the hospital and trying to synthesize a vaccine so that Jill can survive. And the fact that she was infected and Oh, damn. The fact that she was infected and managed to survive is the reason she is where she is in Resident Evil 5, because the T-virus antibodies created something that Wesker could experiment with.
Okay, because it's just I feel like they in a lot of these kinds of games they sort of ignore the fact that you can get like bit by zombies multiple times.
Oh yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, the explanation I think is that by the time those characters got there, the virus lost its contagiousness. But in the Resident Evil Outbreak series, which takes place way earlier on into the Raccoon City outbreak, your player characters can in fact be infected by the virus and attack each other, because that was an online multiplayer game on the PS2. And one of the dangers is that
I think didn't one of those games have like a virus count that you have to keep track of? Like the longer you took to do certain things, your virus would just slowly build up inside you, and if it got too high, that's it. Like,
I'm not really sure about that, but I know that your companions in Outbreak can turn into the infected. They can turn into zombies, and you know.
Because that's like something that came up when I was playing Dead Rising, is that Frank West, because you get hit by zombies, like it's impossible to get through that game without... I mean, I suppose it is possible to get through that game without taking any damage at all, but good luck. But he gets infected partway through the game because, you know, you've been fighting zombies the entire time. Of course you're going to get that shit in you and then get infected and almost die, you know. Yeah. So it's just something that I don't see pop up maybe as much as I would expect. Although I guess it's also something that you don't want to think about. It's
something that's hard to implement in a satisfying gameplay way. They brought it up in Outbreak because one, that game is divided up into a bunch of what if scenarios that are actually kind of short on their own. So it's not something you need to deal with over a long haul of a game. But it's also a fun multiplayer mechanic. If your partner screws up, you might have to kill them because they're trying to kill you now. Mia.
Oh, hi, wife.
You never actually get to see what's behind that door.
I want some answers. I know.
Probably an empty void of space.
Yeah, I know. What I mean is, like...
I know. I'm just being facetious.
It's like one of the few parts of the Baker family home area that you don't get to personally go into.
Lucas, you got your winking hand back.
Wait, how did he get his other hand back? I thought he wasn't infected.
I hate Lucas Baker. He's a fucking asshole.
So we were right.
Did you hear that taunt? Don't just stand there. Do something. He's like, come on, man. Lucas Baker being a complete fucking psychopath is exemplified most in one of the banned footage DLCs. Yet another episode in the unfortunate life of the most unfortunate bastard on the planet, where it's a card game minigame. Hi, Marguerite. Why did your lip syncing suddenly fail you there? Oh, Jesus God. They give you when the bugs jump on you there. I think they don't damage you because you're so.
It's a cutscene.
Yeah, because it's a cutscene. So that's lucky. But there's a card game minigame where you're like playing blackjack, but both characters are strapped into death traps, and every time someone gets a point over the other or whatever, the other person gets shocked or gets put closer to death.
That's fucked up.
It's sick. And the best part is, well, the worst part is, there's a point at which you think that the other person is already dead, but it turns out he's just unconscious. But you have to keep playing anyway.
So you basically have to kill that guy.
Yeah, you have to kill
back.
him. He wakes up right before like a saw blade goes through his head or something. It's like ugh. But yeah, the card game thing is Lucas Baker's encounter with Clancy Jones. The other banned footage episodes are like, okay, Jack Baker throws you into the basement with a Molden and you have to play a mercenary-style minigame to survive. And then there's his episode with Marguerite is the one where he's trapped in a room and has to solve all these puzzles without arousing suspicion. And whenever she comes back, you have to get back in bed and lock yourself up and make sure everything is exactly the way it was when she left, because if she sees even one thing out of place, she's going to sick her bugs on you and it's going to hurt. Ugh.
Going to the safe room.
Yeah. But Lucas Baker is the one who kills the most unfortunate bastard on the planet because, of course...
I'm more concerned about why would their parents name him that?
You know, narratively, from a horror storytelling standpoint, I have to applaud the whole Clancy Jones storyline for creating some pretty effective DLC. But the unfortunate thing is that when I already know this guy is going to burn to death in a fiery death trap in the main game, I don't feel quite as invested in helping him survive these other challenges. So, yeah.
I guess especially considering that they don't impact the main game the way the other ones do, I'm imagining, right?
Well, narratively, the only thing that his survival up until that point affects is that he made it to the death trap that killed him so that he could record footage of himself dying to it so that Ethan could take that information and use it later. But apart from that, like, you know... Oh, yeah, one of the things Marguerite does that might throw you off the first time you play is that sometimes she shouts, "There you are, ha!" But she's just paranoid. She thinks she's seen you. She hasn't actually seen you. It's just, you know, you hear that the first time, without knowing that, she might make you jump and panic, and then she actually sees you, and that's, no, bad idea, bad thing. Yeah. Now... the old house is, if I remember correctly, the house that the Baker family had before they built the current house, which got flooded out. So yeah.
Did we start at the old house or at the new one?
We started at the new house.
Okay, because I remember there was a flooded part at the beginning of the game.
Well, that's because they were stupid and tried to build the basement in Louisiana.
Yeah, that's true, yes.
Yeah, well, it's likely that the basement is only flooded because they've been infected by the mold for so long that they haven't been doing regular maintenance on their own goddamn house. If they were still in their right minds, they probably would be taking steps to prevent that from happening. But, you know, it's been 3 years. A lot can happen in 3 years.
Did you catch that graphical pop-up there?
Yes.
What did it say?
No, the chemical, whatever Lewis picked up from the drawer, didn't load until he began opening the drawer.
Yeah, unfortunately, that kind of stuff happens. Oh, hi, Jack, I found your mower.
I'm sure he'll be thrilled.
What was I saying? Oh, yeah,
We're on the abandoned ship. Jack, I found your mower.
What was I saying?
Yeah, good old crank.
Graphical pop-up
right.
in the drawer.
Unfortunately, the graphical pop-up happens quite a lot on the vanilla PS4 model. It doesn't happen on the Pro. The Pro runs this game beautifully.
Well, actually, no. What's happening there, because you said yourself that in Madhouse difficulty, items are remixed.
Yeah.
It may be trying to
it's a different
load.
item
Yeah.
in a different
it's trying to load what item is in there when you actually activate
I'm pretty
the
sure
drawer.
that the item placement loads before you even see the item. It's the model, because in order to keep this game prioritizes frame rate over graphical fidelity, because, you know, it's a shooter. That's kind of important. But on less powerful hardware, what that means is it's, you know, being very economical with what resources it's spending where. So certain models won't load when they're not needed, and the PS4 vanilla and Xbox One vanilla, I would assume, are slower at loading that kind of thing than the Pro or X models are.
Mm-hmm. But we got the most important item in all of Resident Evil, a crank.
Yep.
Still waiting the day for a gun that shoots cranks.
So what, then you would be able to shoot out the solution to puzzles every time you ran into one?
Absolutely.
Now, what was I going back for? There's something I was going back for? Or am I just...
Did you have any more antiquated coins you want to spend?
Oh, I might just be going back.
Coins? Well, I mean, I suppose they are antiquated. Because
I might just be going...
Antiques.
I might just be going back to the item box because I thought this was one would be more convenient. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, you were towards the front of the house, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's like right. It's right.
And going out the front door means you don't have to worry about Marguerite.
Also, this safe room has a certain sentimental value for me as a part of the story because it's Zoe's trailer, and I quite like Zoe as a character. I wish she was allowed to do more, and Frankly, the way the ending is structured is a bit bullshit. So I'm not really...
So did Zoe live here with these guys, or
she's their
Yes.
daughter, and she lived with her family. Yeah, apparently she was living out in a trailer in the backyard rather than living in the main house, because as children she shared a room with Lucas, and she and Lucas they don't get along. So even if growing up and being adults in the same room wasn't awkward enough, they don't like each other. It's not going to work. You know, so she lived in the trailer and had breakfast with her family and everything. It's not like she was estranged, but she lived in the trailer in the yard.
So she just didn't go get infected while everybody else did. Basically.
She got infected at the same time, but she's resisted it more effectively because she managed to get away pretty early on and has been in hiding, so they haven't fed her the human remains and everything that speed things up.